Hello, my friend, and
Hi.
welcome to episode number 95, 10 Steps to Planning a Balanced Meal in PCOS. So, I have some news. I've started a private Facebook group for only PCOS women called as PCOS Mindset Group, where our only focus, is to understand how we think when we eat and plan our meals accordingly. It's a free group till December 2023, 31st December 2023. It's an opportunity for you, specifically you, to get support from me directly. All you have to do is introduce your goal and post what you are eating in your meals. I guide you to assess how you eat. We do that on a daily basis, along with a free weekly Facebook Live where you can get coached live by me. So, if you're someone who wishes this one on one support for free, I ask you to join this group. You might want to ask me, like, why am I doing this? It's because I'm creating a paid program for later, and I want to understand how to serve PCOS women better. So, that's my intention. Also, if you get any sort of success, I would be using that to inspire other PCOS women to do this work with me. Of course, after asking your permission. So, if you are someone who wants to get started with my support for free, that's one of the ways you can do that. All right. Next thing is lately I decided to go off flour and sugar and dairy, and it's going really well for the last 3 weeks. For me to sustain that goal, I had to shift my focus to proteins, and it's working out really well. Except I'm still not meeting my recommended protein allowance. I'm not really counting my macros, but I counted it a couple of times and I'm not meeting the requirement, which is basically like zero point 0.8 gram or 1 kilo, 1 gram per kilo weight, right? So, as per that, I need to eat at least 40 to 50 grams of protein in a day. I'm not meeting that requirement, but I have increased my protein intake for sure. And so far, it's going great. I'm having a lot of fun cooking my meals, planning them ahead of time, sharing them on my stories. So, in case if you are not following me on Instagram or Facebook, please check me out. I am Dr. Rashmi Pawar underscore OBGYN underscore coach on Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm the Metabolic PCOS coach. Just give me a follow there and you can see me share my meals on a daily basis there. And I also talk about my thought work that I'm doing when it comes to eating this food. So let's start by talking about these 10 steps that we need to take to plan a balanced meal in PCOS. And this is sort of out of the post which I made on Instagram and Facebook about how to, whether protein is good, whether protein is bad, and like what is the right moderate way of planning a protein rich PCOS meal. So the first step is obviously going to be write it down. That's how our brains plan. Like we obviously have a strategy in our mind, but if you write it down, we have like sort of got it from our brain on paper or on a device. It can't be in our head always. It needs to be written down for accountability with ourselves. Like I was coaching a client and he was searching for an accountability partner. He was like, I need to be a part of an accountability group. Someone who is like, I show up for other human beings, but I don't show up for me. And that's like another reason because some of us, like me as well, I would show up for my patients, I'll show up for my clients, but I would not show up for me. At least I used to not show up for myself. And that's where we have to build that relationship with ourselves where we write down our plans and then we commit to it and then we do it as if it's going to be so much more fun, just the way when we see other humans. So we can use ourselves for accountability. So write down your plan, whatever plan you have, when it comes to eating healthy or like including a protein rich meal. Write down all your macros, what you think are healthy, and what you love. So make a list on paper or on your device, which you're going to refer to regularly. Every time you're trying to plan some meal, it's going to be from this list of food items which you know are healthy and you love them, right? So that is the step one. Now, step two is focus on complex carbohydrates. Now, most food items, including proteins and fats, they would have some carbohydrate in it, right? But if you're going to plan for carbohydrates, just go for complex carbohydrates like whole grains, legumes, starchy vegetables, fruits, because these complex carbohydrates would have a low glycemic index. Like some fruits would have a high glycemic index, but most fruits have a low glycemic index. That means it will not produce a very high insulin spike after you have eaten it, or you would not produce a very high glucose level in your blood the moment you eat it. Also, unlike simple or refined carbohydrates, these complex carbohydrates are not addictive and they will not produce cravings, as the food is still getting digested in your stomach. Like, I don't think like people are addicted to oats or brown rice or legumes or like potatoes. Like some of us do love our potatoes, like if they're fried or like we have done some weird things with it. But overall, nobody really loves complex carbohydrates. They don't crave for it. There is no addictive capacity in it, right? And that's what happens with um, foods like bread, pasta, cookies, cereals, which have so much sugar in it. Like even if you put sugar in your coffee or tea, you're gonna want to have one more because it's like you've practiced having it so many times that it's first of all a habit to go and have one more, and it's addictive, and also it empties the stomach so fast. It's empty, literally empty again, and it produces that hunger and cravings. So try to stick to the complex carbohydrates. And as I said, most foods have some carbohydrates in it. So you don't need to have a separate, proper portion of carbohydrates. Like you don't need a lot of rice or a lot of bread or a lot of pasta. You can just have a little bit of it. Like we want to aim to fill up our plate with more of vegetables, more of fruits, not too much fruits, but and more of proteins and good fats, because that protein and good fat is going to sort of slow down the digestion of that sugar, slow down the release of that sugar, right? And every time you have refined carbs, when you're not combining it with protein or good fats, remember to have it with protein, because otherwise it's just going to like produce an insulin spike, sugar spike, and you're going to crave for some more of it. It's going to empty your stomach and your intestines, and you're just going to like get hungry more. So include protein and good fats with it so that the sugar is released slowly. Now that was step two, focus on complex carbohydrates. Step three is prioritize proteins. Proteins are essential macronutrients, unlike carbohydrates and fat. So when it comes to nutrients, there are macronutrients and micronutrients. Macros are your carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and micros are your vitamins and minerals. And now there is fiber, and nowadays is considered as a macroprotein, right? Or a microprotein, one of them. So, and some people just even added water as one of the macros. But this is all theory, right? Like science itself is a theory. So you can decide which theory you want to pick up and go with it. Whichever theory serves you and your body and your well-being, go for it. So protein is actually an essential macronutrient. Essential macronutrient means we need to consume it to get to for our well-being, whereas carbohydrates and fats, they're not essential, because your body can break down protein to make fat and carbohydrate. Your body can break, but your body cannot make protein from carbohydrate and fat, right? So our body can actually make fat from carbohydrates and protein. So you don't need to eat extra fat. You can just like, even if you're having carbohydrate and protein, you will make fat. Similarly, we can create carbohydrate, as in glucose can come from fat and protein, but you cannot make protein by itself in your body. right? So it needs to be consumed separately. It's an essential nutrient. Now we need these proteins for our muscles so we can move better. We need them for our hormones, for our enzymes, so that our metabolism is working well. We need it for certain molecules like hemoglobin to carry oxygen. And there are many such cellular functions for which we need proteins. So proteins are, that's why, essential nutrients, which are absolutely essential. Like if children don't have proteins, they get malnourishment like kwashiorkor and marasmus, which can be deadly. As adults, we don't get so much protein deficiency, but except for those who are vegans or girls who are having eating disorders, they're just consuming a lot of carbohydrate based foods and they're not eating more of protein, or those who have some sort of chronic illnesses, their demand is higher, or had some surgeries or recovering from that. So protein requirement is higher in some populations, but overall adults do well. My focus for PCOS women is to have more of proteins instead of carbohydrates, because our problem is insulin resistance, right? So for us to cut down the insulin resistance, to deal with insulin resistance, we need to consume lesser of carbohydrates. But since we eat to feel better, that is one of our coping mechanisms. We don't want to reduce the amount of food that we are eating. We just need to substitute carbohydrates with proteins and good fats. That brings us to step number 4, which is incorporate healthy fats, good fats. Now, again, just like proteins, fat is also an important component for hormonal balance and overall health. Opt for sources which are good in unsaturated fats like avocado, nuts, seeds, olive oil, fatty fish, dairy products. Personally, I love fat in animal products, as even when it's heated, it doesn't oxidize to trans fats. Unlike seed oil, so like suppose you're cooking something or deep frying something in a seed oil, that high temperature can convert your fats into trans fats, which are like really toxic for your blood vessels. It produces this toxic oxidative products which damage the inside lining of your blood vessels and can cause atherosclerosis. And this atherosclerosis can cause cardiac, heart attacks, strokes. So if you wish to fry any food item, use animal fats, like just the fat in animal. Like I would like fried chicken with chicken skin or whatever fat it has, or you can use butter, or you can use ghee. If you're not frying and you're just consuming food, I would suggest put olive oil, like not heated olive oil, just put olive oil or avocado oil or coconut oil on your food, and that can give you the good fats. Because fat, it helps you feel satiated. Satiation is one of the important functions of our brain. If we feel satiated, satiation means satisfaction. Once we feel satisfaction, we stop eating further, right? And when you are having good fats, that's when we get satiated, we get satisfied, and we don't crave for more food, which is not the case with carbohydrates or refined carbohydrates. In fact, when they tried to make low fat carbohydrates, low fat milk, low fat yogurts, they removed the fat from it. It was not tasty at all. That's why they had to add more sugar, which was not sweet. So people don't think it's sweet, but it actually is there, and it produces a lot of insulin spike. So include good fats. Fats taste good and keep us full longer as our body is satisfied. So we don't crave for more food, unlike what we crave for after having processed carbohydrates, right? So that's step number 4, include good fats. Step number 5 is practice portion control. Get in touch with your stomach's fullness signal. It is when you're eating, don't just force eat. Recognize that there comes a point where your stomach hurts. Like it's like, oh, I think I'm full. Or you might get a burp, especially if you're eating slowly. At that point, you know that your stomach is full of food and whatever stomach gas was there, we call it the stomach bubble, it has come up and you have had a burp. That means your stomach has been full. We don't want to stretch it more, because if you start stretching it more, that means you're eating beyond your fullness signal. So you can get in touch with your fullness signal that way, especially if you're trying to lose weight. You can use smaller plates to like trick your brain that you're eating enough. You can use smaller bowls so that you take enough portion, like smaller portions. Um, and I also offer you, like, if you are trying to practice controls, portion control, I offer you to eat slowly. Eating slowly until fullness. Because what happens is, if you eat fast, your stomach gets full fast, and it's like not had an opportunity to sort of like get the adequate nutrition. So eat slowly, like take at least 15-20 minutes to finish a meal, minimum. And if you don't know how much time you're taking to eat your meals, I offer you to time yourself. All right. So check every meal if you're eating beyond fullness. If you are eating beyond fullness, always ask yourself why you do that. Why did you eat that much? Because you don't have to, right? Especially if you're trying to lose weight. So get curious whenever you're eating beyond your fullness. Step 6, that's what step 5, that is practice portion control. Step 6 is avoid snacking. Avoid snacking, especially if you're trying to lose weight. Most of us are snacking to suppress our boredom, our stress, our anxiety. Don't plan a snack if you see yourself snacking regularly. That's where you can start doing your mindset work, as in, don't plan a snack. And if you see yourself snacking still, in spite of the plan, which is not to snack, use that opportunity to get curious why you snacked. Because that is your real time work, right? Like, okay, I shouldn't have snacked today. Why did I snack? All right. Is it because I'm too stressed? Is something is bothering me? What is bothering me? Okay, how can I fix that? Is eating food going to help me? I'm not really hungry. So get curious about, why are you snacking? What were you trying to avoid? Can you solve that problem instead of eating something, right? Because eating doesn't solve any problem apart from, like, eating is just food, right? It's fuel. We don't really need food to solve our problems. So use those opportunities to explore, why are you snacking, right? That is step number 6. Step number 7 is experiment. Try a particular type of meal for, say, 2 or 4 weeks and assess what happened to your weight, to your emotions, to your digestion, to your cravings, to your allergies. Assess what you are and what you ate, and why you eat every meal the way you eat, and get into that experimental mode, because your assessment will help you experiment better until you find that awesome meal which is healthy, tasty, nutritious, protein rich, less refined or processed. Currently, I focus on intentionally having as much natural proteins first, and add some good fats, and fill the rest of my plate with vegetables and a little rice. This works for me, but you need to find what works for you. Don't say you don't know. I don't know. That's so many clients who say that. I don't know what to eat. Because every time you say, I don't know, your brain closes that chapter. It doesn't let you explore what is possible for you. You are an expert in your life. So you saying, I don't know, blocks that area of your life, and you just keep on spinning and I don't know, and keep eating the way you normally eat. Right? So that's step number 7, experiment. Step number 8 is be patient and kind. We use our left brain to plan meals very strictly, and our left lower brain will come to attack us every time we don't follow our plan of eating healthy. I offer you to go into your right brain. Your right higher brain, thinking brain, allows you to love yourself and accepts yourself the way you are. And your left lower brain is where is all the fun. So that's where you get curious. almost like a scientist, to see what results are created. How else can I plan my meal? How can I make my meal? What are my options? How can I create something which is super tasty? That's where you get to play, right? You have both these parts of the brain, right brain, low left brain, sorry, left brain, right brain, left higher, left lower, left higher, right lower, higher, and right lower. These all four parts of your brain are available for you to access. But we can access the right brain only if we are kind and patient with ourselves. So start with that. So that's step number 8. Step number 9 is make your food fun. Now that's where you use your right lower brain, right? Where you get to have some fun with food. Now, we have sought comfort in food since our birth. Since birth, as a child, that was one of our reflexes. It's a genetic coding which we get not just from our parents, but as a species. Our newborns have the sucking reflex, rooting reflex. Everything is revolving around getting food, right? And also the same thing, like when the child is on mother's breast, it gets comfort as well. It has that skin to skin. So it's being held comfortably by its mother. So we have associated food and comfort since our birth for generations as a species. So that's our hardwiring. And every time we plan or even think of getting healthy, we imagine that we have to let go of our comfort. But it doesn't have to be that way. If right now you seek comfort in sugar, bread, chips, chocolates, we have an option to find creative ways of planning a healthy, balanced meal where you know all your senses would have a party. So that's like a right lower brain function where you get to be creative. So we can focus on pleasing our senses, right? All our senses, like our 5 senses: vision, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. So you you can make the food look attractive, like focus on plating it, like presenting it just for fun, like how chefs do it, right? Like you must have seen some cooking shows where it's like a skill. Like some people make such tasty food, but the presentation is so shitty. It needs to be presented well, right? For your customer to like it. So you are your customer. Make it look good. Make it smell good. Now, we can't really make it smell good, but I would offer, if you're cooking yourself or if someone else is cooking for you, take a moment to smell that food. You know, like if someone is cooking this yummy meal or like making those amazing cookies at home, that's something which has strongly wired in my brain, cookies and bread. But even like Indian cooking that we have, like some of it smells so good. Like, oh my God, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to get this amazing meal, right? So take a moment to smell the food, right? Next is choose strong, tangy flavors from your fruits if you want. Like, put that fruit on your plate. Like, even if you don't like fruit per se, like you don't want to eat it as such, keep that available because fruits are very tasty, right? They're tangy, they're crunchy, and they're healthy. So why not? So add some fruit in your on your plate. Also, we like crunch. Like if you think about, if you like chips, you like that crunch, you like that saltiness, right? So you can add some nuts and seeds, not too much salt. I would recommend try to make your own nuts and seeds with the salt that you know how much you're putting, right? But try to go for vegetables with little salt on it, some fruits with little salt on it, so that you get the crunch, you get the saltiness, you get the tanginess. You are like pleasing all your senses, and take the moment to relish it, right? Use pickles or kimchi or fermented food for the sourness. So we have so many food items. We deprive ourselves of these tasty, this kind of taste when we are like constantly eating bread and cookies. Like it barely has um that tasty feeling after a few bites. That's what my coach had done for me. Like, she had asked me to fill out this tedious, powerful worksheet where we had to sit with a meal and a paper on the side and understand what each bite is doing. So take a bite, eat your meal, eat that bite, and write down what are the sensations and what are your thoughts. By fourth or fifth bite of that food, which I loved and craved so much, I lost interest in it completely. And I still continued to eat because I was like, but I know it's tasty. I know I'm supposed to feel good. So get curious about at what point you actually lose desire for the food, right? And when it comes to this healthy food items, like, even if you lose desire for it, but there is no guilt in it because it has more nutrients in it. It's power packed, right? So we really need to engage our creative minds to plan our meals. It might seem like an effort right now, especially if you're not doing it, but once you start doing it, your brain will get hooked to it, as creativity is play and play feels awesome. So that's step number 9, make your food fun. And step number 10 is the last one, which is find accountability. Sometimes just writing down our meal plan is good enough, as that's where we hold ourselves accountable. Our left brain, the doer, is watching and will hold us accountable and come with shame, that is the lower brain emotions, shame, guilt, and disappointment if we don't do as we planned. So many of us actually don't like these shame, guilt, and disappointment that we feel when we don't do what we plan to do. So we don't plan. Also, some of us would avoid telling anyone because you already have you who's shitting on you for you not doing what you plan to do. And then you avoid telling someone else who might also share the same thoughts that, oh, you should have, how come you didn't? Right. Now, I offer you to engage your loving right brain intentionally. All right. So, this is like the first time I'm talking about right and left brain because I read this book by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, and I want to offer you to read that book if you like anything related to brain. So, I previously used to talk only higher brain and lower brain, but Dr. Jill, she is a neuroanatomist, and she wrote this book called Whole Brain Living because she went through a stroke and she understood exactly how her brain was functioning and how it recovered. So our brain, I always talk of higher brain and lower brain, but we have a left higher brain, left lower brain, right higher brain, right lower brain. And she talks about neuroanatomy, as in the nerves which are connected and which are responsible for those emotions and those functions. So our left brain is the doer, is the one who is organized, who strategizes, who plans, who gets things done, and she's very anal. She wants to get everything done, right? And the left lower brain is the emotional one. It remembers all the past memories, especially the bad ones, and every information that we see in the world comes from that left lower brain. It is constantly searching if it is safe or it's not safe. If it comes to know that there is even a little bit danger, then it will create all these alarm bells and all these weird emotions like anxiety, fear, panic, or it can create some baseline stress. And then it goes to your left thinking brain and you get to have a feeling about it. Then comes your right brain, which is the right higher thinking brain, which is the one who is responsible for believing in God, having a purpose, having intention, dreaming, like goal setting, and like believes in that unanimous spirituality, like we are all same, we are all together, that holistic life, right? And the right lower brain is the toddler who just cares about having fun, creativity, play, excitement, all of that stays in your right lower brain. So we plan our meals from our left brain. When we don't follow, our left lower brain comes to attack us. At that point, we need to engage our right brain who loves, and then we go into the right lower brain who likes to play. And that's where we get curious about how to make our meals fun. So I offer you to engage your loving brain intentionally. Every time you plan your meal and you don't eat as planned, instead of indulging in the left lower brain, who is like shaming you or disappointed, try to go back to the right brain and be like, okay, what happened? It's okay that happened. Let's go. What happened? Let's engage some curiosity. Why did we eat the way we eat, right? So you can practice holding that unconditional loving space for whatever happened and then engage curiosity for why that happened. And how can we playfully plan our next meal? If this seems complex, then please set up a strategy call with me or get coach on that call to understand how I coach, right? So the strategy call is free. Even if you don't have any intention to hire me as a coach, understand how I coach. See if you like it. Sometimes all we need is a coach who can guide us out of this old habitual eating patterns to form the new intentional eating patterns. So if you're interested, follow the link in my bio and book a strategy call with me. All right, my friends. So I'll just quickly revise the 10 steps of planning your meals, balanced meals in PCOS. Step number 1 is write it down. Step number 2 is focus on complex carbohydrates. Step number 3, prioritize proteins. Step number 4, incorporate healthy fats. Step number 5, portion control. Step number 6, avoid snacking. Step number 7, experiment. Step number 8, be kind and patient. Step 9, make your food fun. And step 10, find accountability. All right, my friend, I hope this has been useful. I hope I will see you next week. Bye bye.